Ever wonder if vaping falls under the same category as traditional tobacco use? Well, to answer that, we first need to understand exactly what vaping is. Vaping is a method of inhaling aerosol, often mistaken for water vapor, which is produced by an e-cigarette or similar device. These e-cigarettes don't burn tobacco like traditional cigarettes do. Instead, they heat up a liquid, often called vape juice or e-liquid, which contains various substances, including nicotine, flavors, and other chemicals. Over the past decade, vaping has skyrocketed in popularity, becoming a trendy alternative to traditional cigarette smoking. Many people, particularly young adults, have been drawn to its modern, tech-savvy appeal and the wide array of flavors available. However, while vaping and smoking may appear different on the surface, they do share one commonality: nicotine, the addictive substance found in tobacco. Now that we understand what vaping is, let's delve into its relation to tobacco use. Before we can answer whether vaping is tobacco use, we first need to understand what constitutes as tobacco. Tobacco is a plant that contains nicotine, a naturally occurring stimulant. When consumed, nicotine can create a sense of pleasure, but it's also highly addictive. Traditional tobacco products like cigarettes, cigars, and pipe tobacco are made by curing the leaves of the tobacco plant. These products are then smoked, allowing the nicotine and other harmful chemicals to be inhaled directly into the lungs. The health risks associated with tobacco use are well documented. They include heart disease, stroke, lung diseases, and various types of cancer. What's more, tobacco products usually contain more nicotine than most people realize. A single cigarette, for instance, contains about 1 milligram of nicotine. With that understanding of tobacco, we can now directly compare it with vaping. So, is vaping considered tobacco use? The answer might surprise you. Let's delve into the comparisons between vaping and traditional tobacco use. To start with, we need to understand that both vaping and smoking involve nicotine, a highly addictive substance. Traditional cigarettes contain tobacco leaves, which when burned release nicotine that is inhaled. On the other hand, vaping devices, often known as e-cigarettes, heat a liquid that contains nicotine, propelling it into an aerosol that is then inhaled. Does this mean vaping is tobacco use? Well, it depends on how you define tobacco use. If we're defining it by the presence of nicotine, then yes, vaping could be classified as such. However, it's important to note that the nicotine in e-cigarettes is often derived from tobacco plants, but the process of vaping does not involve burning tobacco leaves as traditional smoking does. Now let's talk about health risks. Both smoking and vaping have their own set of health risks. Traditional smoking is linked to numerous diseases, including lung cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Vaping, while marketed as a safer alternative, is not without risks. Recent studies have linked vaping to lung injuries and other respiratory issues. However, the long-term health effects of vaping are still not fully understood, given its relatively recent introduction. When it comes to legal definitions, things get a bit more complicated. In many jurisdictions, vaping products are regulated differently than traditional tobacco products. For instance, in some places, the age to purchase vaping products is lower than for traditional tobacco products. This has led to controversies and debates about whether vaping should be treated the same as tobacco use, especially considering the similar addictive qualities they share due to nicotine. In conclusion, whether or not vaping is considered tobacco use really depends on the context. Are we talking about nicotine content, health risks, or legal definitions? As we've seen, the answer isn't as straightforward as it might seem. So, what have we learned about vaping and tobacco use? Well, we now understand that tobacco is a plant that contains nicotine, a highly addictive substance. We've also delved into the world of vaping, exploring its similarities and differences with traditional tobacco use. We've discovered that while vaping doesn't involve burning tobacco leaves, most e-cigarettes do contain nicotine, derived from tobacco. This connection has ignited a debate, with some arguing that vaping should indeed be classified as a form of tobacco use. On the other hand, others argue that the absence of tobacco combustion sets vaping apart. It's a complex issue, and the conversation continues to evolve as more research unfolds. Remember though, no matter where you stand in this debate, it's crucial to keep in mind the potential risks associated with both vaping and tobacco use. Whether you consider vaping as tobacco use or not, it's essential to be aware of the potential risks and make informed decisions.